Kingdom Part 7, Animalia, Invertebrates, the quick and dirty rundown. So, invertebrates, animals that don't have a backbone, such as crabs, spiders, grasshoppers, and echinoderms. Talking about body symmetry. Asymmetry is without symmetry, so we have irregular shapes. We talk about radial symmetry, we can actually divide them along any plane through a central axis and roughly have equal parts, like a pie. Bilateral symmetry is tending to cut lengthways in half. Cephalization is when we actually have a head or a front part that actually contains the sense organs or nerve cells, allows for quick responses to the environment. Okay, so, you know this chart. You might want to get it out, have it in front of you. Peripheral, pore bearing. We've got 3 different classes of sponges. They live mostly in the ocean, but some in fresh water. They do have a larva stage and an adult stage, and the adults are typically sessile, or non-moving, but the larvae can swim using cilia. They are filter feeders, so the water filters through them, and they can grab what they need, and they're typically asymmetric. They can reproduce sexually and asexually. Asexually through fragmentation, budding, and regeneration. Sexually, they can be hermaphrodites, having both boy and girl parts in one body. They typically have internal fertilization where those eggs and sperm come together inside of the body. Example of sponges, and you may actually use one every day when you shower. So, cnidarians, meaning needle-like, and these are going to be some of our jellyfish that we see. We've got 3 different classes, the marine invertebrates, and they got 2 stages. They got a polyp stage that's sessile, that just sort of sits, and then they have a medusa stage that is mobile, that actually uses its tentacles, and it's the larval stage that can swim. What's really cool is that they can change back and forth from polyp to medusa, and then back to polyp. So these can technically almost live forever. So, feeding. They use sticky barbed-like capsules to sting their prey. Those are called nemocysts. And then they actually capture their prey, take them into their stomach, and then digest them. They can do sexual reproduction during the medusa stage, where we have the sperm and eggs, and they combine externally to create a zygote, then grows into a polyp, or asexually in its polyp stage via budding. They do have tissue. This is an evolutionary marker. Sponges, no tissue. These guys start having tissue. No circulatory system to be seen, but the nervous system does have a nerve net, so they can sort of tell what's going on around them. They do have radial symmetry, and they are great homes for other sea creatures. Examples are jellyfish, sea anemones, hydra, and corals. Platyhelminthes, or flatworms. Well, we're talking about flatworms, so let's talk about real quick body cavity. Acoelomate, A means not or without, coelomate means open cavity. So acoelomates have no space between their gut and their epidermis, no body cavity. Pseudocoelomates, pseudo meaning false, have a false cavity. There is a space, but it's not the normal body plan. Then we have our coelomates that do have a specialized body cavity between their gut and their epidermis. So looking at the flatworms, the platyhelminthes, they are acoelomates, they have flat bodies, they do go from egg to larva to adults. They've got 3 different classes, and they mostly live on moist habitats on land and marine and fresh water. They use their muscles to contract, and they have cilia to use for locomotion. They are parasites. They actually can excrete enzymes to start digesting their food that they're stuck to, and then they can stick to it and bring it into the gastrocavity, or their stomach. Reproduction, again, we see hermaphrodites. Sexually, we have internal fertilization inside the body. Asexually, we see regeneration by fission. More characteristics, they cause disease, such as tapeworms, planarians, and flukes. They have bilateral symmetry. They can see split down the lengthways. No real circulatory system, but they do have a cerebral ganglia, or a central nerve bunch, typically at the front, and planarians have an eye spot to detect light. Roundworms. Roundworms, or nematodes, are pseudocoelomates, false cavity. They tend to have slender, unsegmented worms that are tapered at each end. They live in soil, animals, yes, inside us animals, fresh water, and salt water. Movement is done by thrashing and wiggling their bodies. They do have a body cavity, and they have no circulatory system to speak of. Now, reproduction, they do sexual reproduction, and that is internal fertilization. And they do have a nervous system. They have a simple ganglia and sensory nerves throughout their body. They're half predator, and the other half are going to be parasites. They do have grasping mouth parts, so they can actually stick to inside of us and grasp and stay there. They can kill and infect humans, animals, and plants. These are worms such as Ascaris, hookworms, pinworms, trichinella, or even heartworms in dogs. Annelids, or segmented worms. These are going to be tiny rings. They have bilateral symmetry. They are coelomates. They have bodies that are cylindrical and segmented as adults. So yes, they do have an adult and a larval stage. There are 3 classes. They live in most environments except for frozen soil and dry sandy soil. So they need some sort of liquid or moisture around them. They use what is known as setae, which are tiny bristles along each segment to move. They do have a closed circulatory system, which means blood is contained within a network of vessels. They are hermaphrodites, but can do sexual reproduction depending on what species they are. They are filter feeders all the way up to predators, so they could be anywhere in between. They can eat soil all the way up to actually eating blood. These guys are earthworms that help aerate and fertilize our soil, all the way to leeches that can be used for medical purposes to help draw the blood through the new or reattached limb. Examples are going to be our earthworm, leeches, bristleworms. Now moving on to mollusks. Mollusks are soft bodies. They have bilateral symmetry. They're coelomates, having that opening between the gut and the epidermis. And they have a muscular foot, a mantle, and typically a shell. Milestones is that they have an enclosed body cavity. They are coelomates. They live in oceans, fresh water, and moist terrestrial habitats, or land habitats. For feeding, they can actually, a lot of them can use this really cool structure called a radula to drill, scrape, or grate, or cut their food. It's sort of like a tongue organ with rows of teeth on it. It's really kind of cool. But feeding all depends on what class they are. We're going to look at 3 different classes. So you may actually want to take your mollusk section and divide it into 3 sections, 3 classes. Reproduction. They typically separate the sexes, so males and females, and reproduce sexually via external fertilization. So the females come and do their business over here, and then the males come and fertilize it over here, and so forth. Terrestrial species may be hermaphrodites, again having boy and girl parts in one body. They have an open circulatory system where blood is not completely contained in vessels. They do have a nervous system. Now, 2 of our classes, the gastropodia and the bivalvia, have a very simple nervous system. But the cephalopods, talking about our squids, our octopus, have very highly developed nervous systems. They can even play games, see patterns, and do puzzles. Okay, gastropodia is either shellless or has 1 shell. They can be herbivores, carnivores, or parasites. Examples are snails, conch shells, or slugs. Our bivalvia, bi means 2, valve can be a bivalvia shell. 2 shells. These are typically filter feeders. They can use the foot inside of their shell to help burrow them down into their environment, typically in marine or freshwater environments, clams, oysters, or scallops. And then we get to our cephalopodia. Again, these are the cool guys. These are our head-footed mollusks, all marine life. They use jet propulsion to move. They have an internal shell but an outside soft body. They feed its predators, using their tentacles to grasp and bring onto structures. And many of them secrete ink for protection. Oh, guys, you made me ink! Again, examples are octopus, squid, and cuttlefish. Echinoderms, or talking about our sea stars and spiny-skinned creatures. Again, echino is going to be spiny, derm is going to be skin, so spiny-skinned creatures. They have radial symmetry as adults and bilateral symmetry as larvae. So we do see an egg, larva, adult stage. They are found throughout all of the oceans of the world. They are mostly sessile or non-moving, but they can use their feet to actually move and grip on, and they do have a larval stage that can swim. Feeding is going to be either herbivores, decomposers, or carnivores. Reproduction, they can do external fertilization sexually, or they can do regeneration asexually. Remember, if you cut off a leg of a starfish, it can grow it back. These include starfish, sea urchins, sand dollars, and sea cucumbers. Arthropods. So, arthropods have jointed appendages. They have an exoskeleton which makes them crunch if we step on them. They have bilateral symmetry. They are coelomates having that open body cavity. And they are invertebrates. They grow by molting. And there's two life cycles that they could have. They could either go egg, nymph, which is a very little version of an adult, and then they keep molting their skin as they grow to become a full, large adult. Or they can go egg, larva, pupa, adult. We see that when we talk about our butterflies. When we actually go from caterpillar, which is the larval stage, into the pupa, and then into the adult butterfly stage. Habitat is land, water, air. These guys fly, crawl, and swim. They got three classes. We got our crustacea, we've got our chelorates, and we've got our insecta. We can see anything from herbivores to carnivores to omnivores, which eat both plants and animals, because they all have mouth parts. They have an open circulatory system, and they have well-developed brains. So when we talk about reproduction, we have to break it down into our land species and our aquatic species. Sexually, land species can do internal fertilization. When we talk about aquatic species, they do external fertilization, where the fertilization takes place outside of the body. Some are hermaphrodites, having both males and female portions of the body. And some do parthenogenesis, where the females can have unfertilized eggs actually turn into more females. We see that in bees, wasps, and ants. The significance of these guys are going to be our pollinators, bees, scavengers such as ants and beetles, parasites, and they control the insect populations such as spiders. Well, bye for now. And yo, way to be, DW.